Alright, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. Here we talk about gender and sexuality related LGBT topics primarily. Hopefully my fan being on medium is not too loud right now. But it's like 80 something degrees today, and for me that's pretty warm. Today I was wanting to talk about an episode I watched of Ashley Gavin's podcast, a new episode, which, I follow her content, so, she has a lot of different guests on, and today she had some repeat guests, and so let me see if I can even get on there. So, trying to look through my history. So she had Anna Lee and Brianne Williamson, the co-host Brianne Williamson and Anna Lee, the sex... Is she a sexologist? I think she does basically she's kind of like a scientist. She makes sex toys and has involvement in some of the apps that capture data. It seems like it's either for clinical reasons, like if somebody is trying to figure out what's happening with their body during some kind of sensual experience. She kind of has the data on that if they're connected to the devices and whatnot. And then I think she also has some kind of role in the testing and data collection aspects, maybe even the design aspects, and just knowledgeable in general about mostly about according to her, it seems like she's more knowledgeable about females and lesbians and sexuality, not so much about males, according to what she mentioned. And I like this episode. It was kind of a different one. I liked that, everyone kind of gave their take. They all had their own stories for the week, but one thing that I really specifically liked was that the guest, that Ashley Gavin as the host and Brianne Williamson as the co-host, the guest Anna Lee was kind of the main focus. And so I did really like that, because usually I feel I know it's Ashley Gavin's podcast, but I feel usually it's about her, and then she kind of invites the others along to join. It's they're joining her party versus let's throw a party for the guest kind of. That's kind of how this episode felt, was that there was the guest speaker, but they were kind of more the center of attention, and so I kind of like that center of attention vibe. I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, I thought that there were really sirens, I swear, every time. But it just goes to show how often there are sirens around here. I mean, I hit record pretty much whenever during my waking hours, whether I'm taking a break at work or before work or, after work or on weekends, and there's always sirens getting captured up in here. But yeah, so the episode was about, at least the part that kind of captured my attention, was that this person had been on before. I think last time when she was on, I believe she didn't identify as pan or queer at all, as far as I think I remember. But yeah, and this one she did. And then I also like that, you know, she kind of had some topics that were interesting, like about her experience with like group sex with lesbians, and then different experiences with like sex parties. And so I found that interesting that she kind of had those interests and was able to talk about it openly. I thought that was pretty cool. I believe she has content on TikTok. I haven't yet looked her up on YouTube. Let me see. Maybe she has something on there. Let me see. I don't know what I'm even searching here. Goodness. Let's see. So I don't think this is her. I think this one is her. Lioness. So Lioness, I think that's her channel. Anna Lee's channel. Because there's one that says Anna Lee. It looks like a podcast that has this by Fun with Dumb, episode 178. It says Anna Lee, and then in parentheses it says Lioness Smart Vibrator. So it looks like Fun with Dumb is the podcast that these other two are hosting. But then further down it has Lioness, Lioness, and it has, yeah, it's her talking about, I mean, she has different topics on here: how to squirt, my favorite sex toys. So I'm assuming that those are her channel, reviewing the toys. So I guess her label actually is sex toy engineer. So it looks like she has different types of like tips, techniques, different things like that. And yeah, so she has her own content, so I'm probably gonna check some of that out. I haven't yet. I'm just looking. Dude, when you search though for her channel, you can't really find it. Let me see. It basically shows a lot of lions. So that's not really what I was trying to do. So you have to search Anna Lee. I guess maybe if I search Anna Lee Lioness, it comes up. Let me see. Yes, you guys can tell I don't really prepare these in advance. I just start talking. So when I search Anna Lee Lioness, it shows up with more content that she's been in. It looks like she gets interviewed quite often by a lot of people. And then some of the content maybe is her individual content, but most of the stuff listed. Okay, so further down, there's more of her content. She's also got a Forbes. There's something on Forbes that she did. So yeah, she's got a lot of content out there. So that's really cool. I really like that on Ashley Gavin's podcast. It was really positive. She was really just kind of positive about everything. Like, I like that she's kind of like not awkward about things, just kind of like casual about stuff. And something that I did like that she mentioned, well, not necessarily that I like the concept of it, but I did like how she mentioned kind of like some, because sometimes there are like topics that are like kind of deeper to go into. So one that she mentioned was like being at a sex party and like kind of fetishized at a straight sex party, or primarily like cis hetero sex party. How she felt kind of like, when she was the only Asian woman in the room, she was kind of sexualized, more so. But I do like, hearing that, there are people who go out and kind of explore, and also they kind of come and report back. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know. I think as far as my beliefs about like sex parties and things, as long as it's consenting adults, I don't really see the issue with it. My main hang up, honestly, with a lot of things kind of stems from, being raised in like a religious culture of people who are just like full of judgment and kind of ego, and full of just kind of like gossiping, kind of backstabbing, kind of socializing. That's kind of the only thing that I kind of think of as far as like emotional safety. Like, maybe it's a safe space there to go to like certain parties, but like depending like how small the community might be, like, do people openly like speak about it? Is it something that, if you run into somebody who's like somebody or a person that's like associated with somebody, like, is there like confidentiality? Like, I know, they can say that there is, but is there really? Like, that's what I don't really know. Like, I think pretty much with like sex in general, there is kind of this like expectation almost of like, okay, don't kiss and tell kind of thing. But then there's this other kind of like ego side of things where people kind of take like a safe experience or a safe space and they turn it into like, oh, like I got lucky, or like I did this and this and that with that person, or like just more specific things that I feel like, I don't know, like for myself, I'm not really into having, like, I don't mind telling my own side of what I'm comfortable talking about experiences, but I don't think I'd be very into another person I know describing their experience. If I was together with them and we were like together, I don't think I would want them just being like, oh yeah, we like hooked up or like whatever, like, and just like telling all their friends or telling all my friends or whatever. Like, I think I would keep that to myself. Like even when I've gone to like clubs and stuff, like gay clubs, and just like, just kind of like the casual kind of make out hookup kind of situation, like, I don't usually like tell people about that. Like, I just go and do it, and then I come back to my group of friends, or I just peace out and just say I'm out for the night, and just that's it. Like, I don't introduce to all my friends or like anything, or like tell my friends about it or anything. Like, I prefer to kind of keep that to myself. just out of respect, for somebody. I feel like that's kind of more of my kind of mind setting on it, that I'd rather just not be openly just like telling people all that kind of private details. But I think it would be a little different if I was like with somebody that was kind of like okay with me talking about it a little more, like, with my friends, or when I'm alone with them. Like, if they were like more okay with it, I think I wouldn't be like too, like, I'd be cautious, but I wouldn't be like too concerned about it. But that's like, yeah, I don't have any real like, I'm not like judgmental about that kind of thing. I just would, that's the only kind of like, in my mind, I'm like, that's like a caution in my mind, that I'd be like, I don't know, like, upon just meeting certain people for like the first time meeting them, I don't know how deep of a trust level I have with people. And I know it's also pretty rare when you're in like a huge city, that you're probably not going to be coming across like the same people like that all the time, who know people and everything. But when you're kind of in like a queer world, especially if you're not in like a major city, and even if you are, like, a lot of times the queer world is a lot smaller. And so it is common when you frequent a place, you're going to run into the same people, at least here and there. So that's kind of the only hang up that I would think. Or just like, if my family or friends kind of knew, then I would probably get a little like uncomfortable. Like, even this podcast, like, I don't really like share it with my family, like, because I don't really want them like involved in my life that deeply on these kind of levels. But yeah, there are some just randomly off topic, like, I was watching these I think Helix, they have these hashtag Helix, these old like hashtag Helix videos on YouTube. And then like there's one with like Blake Mitchell, and I can't remember who else, but it's like these other two like cis gay guys, and basically they were saying, like, I guess the question in their interview was like, who, like, has your family ever like mentioned to you or brought it up, like, about you working, like, they're sex workers basically, so like, has their family ever brought it up, that they work in porn? And they're just kind of like talking about their experiences with that, and then like that they don't want to talk about it, and that they're not really like trying to like talk about it too much with their families and stuff, which is like, okay, like, I get that. So I think everyone kind of has their comfort, their limits, their cautions, and then stuff that they're just totally not okay with, and it's all completely fine. Like, I have a friend who kind of like is always telling me like, oh, I wish I was like as open-minded as you are, and I'm just kind of thinking like, okay, it's fine, but I mean, like, you don't have to be like as open-minded as I am about some stuff. Like, I'm not open-minded about every single thing on the face of the planet. Like, there's definitely topics that I'm not open-minded on, or just haven't really explored them enough to even be open-minded, and I have like some kind of automatic answer that I haven't really fully thought out, very specifically. Maybe some emotional topics and whatnot, but I don't really know. Like, I don't really know what as far as yeah, like with Ashley Gavin's podcast, like that was kind of the most interesting part of it for me, was just um that the main guest that was talking was like really knowledgeable and open to share her experiences about, like, you know, different types of experiences she's had, like with group experiences and things. And kind of like, yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, I would assume, you know, somebody who works in everyone. I don't know how every single field is, because I've only worked in the field I'm in. But every field, I think, kind of has people that, you know, are pretty open to what's in that field. Like, so for example, I work in mental health, so it's pretty much normalized, you know, things like becoming tearful and crying, or like expressing your emotions, and, you know, engaging in therapy or taking medications or going to like a crisis center, hospitalization, you know, like kind of like more extreme, like distressing thoughts and things like that. Like, we don't like talk specifically to our coworkers about that kind of stuff. Like, if you need professional like non-friend help, like definitely you go get it. But it's like, it's not uncommon in my field for, you know, me, my friends, you know, people I work with, to talk kind of like, oh yeah, like you know, my therapist says this, or like, oh yeah, they changed up my meds and like it works way better, and like those types of conversations where it's like, you know, outside of psych, it's still kind of like taboo to be like, oh, you see a psychiatrist, oh, you go to therapy, oh, you take meds, oh, like you like had like, you know, like risk thoughts and things like that. And like, you know, whereas I feel like in other fields, people maybe don't talk to their coworkers about that kind of stuff all the time. Like, you know, at least for my job sites, I don't know if every job is like this, but for my job sites, it's very, people are open-minded, and there's definitely that confidentiality there where it's like, you can definitely trust people. And I know that when I talk to somebody about something, you know, they'll kind of keep that to themselves. There's not really a lot of like gossiping out about like other people's business and stuff like that. Like, people ask questions and stuff, but, you know, it's not really too yeah, it's not really too like like extreme, like wanting details and stuff. And when somebody does, you know, it's just right that somebody else kind of shuts it down, or like it's kind of just not like socially acceptable to be gossiping, honestly. And so we just kind of don't really gossip, I don't think. I mean, I feel like when you're amongst friends and you're close friends, like you can vent about stuff. Like, I've always kind of had this this struggle between, like, you know, if there's somebody who, like, I'm very protective of people, but like, if there's someone who's really getting underneath my skin, you know, like, why shouldn't I be able to talk about that? Like, my experience, not necessarily their experience. But like, if somebody's getting underneath my skin, you know, and I'm like angry with them, or like hurt or something, why shouldn't I be able to talk about my experience, you know, without feeling like I'm guilty and spreading, you know, gossip. Like, there's like a way to be able to do it where you're not really spreading their details, but it's like, sometimes it's like, if you are like the victim, or the person who's kind of like feeling bothered, or the person who's upset, like, you still might need to talk it through with somebody. And so that's kind of, for me, where it becomes a little complicated, where it's like, well, I have this experience in this situation, but it's like hard to really be open about it with another person who might know that person, because I don't want it to come across like, oh, I'm like talking shit and like gossiping about them. But it might just be like, hey, I need some like somebody to run this by because like this odd situation happened or like whatever. And then like sometimes that's kind of like a very fine line. Like I notice I do kind of have to think it through before I actually start saying what I'm gonna say, so I'm not like in some kind of like emotional moment just like blabbing all over like all this kind of like personal stuff. But I mean, I've had situations like that happen where it's like, you know, I felt like stuck between like how they say like between a rock and a hard place. It's like, okay, like I've got this situation going on that's definitely affecting me, but then I can't really talk to my other friends about it because it's about one of our shared friends. And it's not like it's common that happens with me, but it's like, it's just a kind of sticky situation to be in. But those kind of situations is kind of what I would worry about with either like I mean, I feel like I share like plenty on here. Like I try not to go in like way too much detail because I'm not really like trying to necessarily go into way too much detail. But I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I write that I post not on here that I've like debated if I would post it, and then I was kind of like, I don't know, like I don't know if people are really here for that, so I don't really know. But yeah, I kind of thought about posting it, and then I like debated against it, and I was like, maybe not, you know. But yeah, it's just kind of it's kind of hard to find like queer sex positive content. Like a lot of stories, LGBT stories, are kind of like getting out of this kind of trauma theme. Not that the trauma isn't important, and not that it doesn't exist, and not to minimize it, but it's kind of like, you know, it's good to see other types of stories and other kind of like storylines with queer people, you know. So I'm kind of really gravitating towards a lot of these like podcasts and like interviews with sex workers who are gay and all kinds of different stuff, just mostly because I just find it like positive to just hear people talk about stuff in a way that's not so like clinical based, diagnostic based, like we need help because we're suffering kind of, you know. When I know that those situations do exist, they're definitely real, they're definitely valid. I'm not here to say that they're not. I'm just saying that I like a different variety of content as well. Like just the variety itself just makes it, you know, just a more well-rounded picture, I would say. But yeah, it's kind of nice to see, you know, that there's like lesbian content out there too, or like a lesbian that hosts a podcast and then has a lot of different types of gender and sexuality, you know, topics, as well as different people from all different kind of backgrounds. And yeah, I think it's cool stuff. So I mean, that's kind of all I had to say for now, but thanks for listening.